Today's topic is a heavy one. Let's talk about the impact of a toxic mother on a boy's development. I honestly believe that at least half of the misogyny that we see in today's society is not caused by the sexual frustration from women rejecting men, but it's actually caused by unrecognized emotions that boys have towards their toxic mothers. This is quite sad, and I want to start by acknowledging some of the nuances surrounding this topic. Some of the most messed up guys I've ever known were guys brought up by single mothers. There's just something about this dynamic that seems particularly unhealthy. But I think it's unfair to always blame the mothers because there are also terrible fathers out there who treat women like shit and abandon their families. So if the boy grows up without a male role model, that's on the father. But sometimes the mother doesn't allow the father to be with the children, so that's on the mother. So it is nuanced, and when we talk about this topic, we tend to blame just one party. And I think most of the time it's not that simple. So first, I want to bring your attention to something called surrogate spouse syndrome. This is when a woman without a husband begins to rely on her son for the emotional support and practical needs that she would normally get from her partner. For example, your mother could be complaining about a co-worker that she doesn't like, or a financial problem that she's been stressed about, or she encourages you to help raise the siblings. Things that she would normally rely on the husband. But now she's venting it to you. She turns you into that surrogate spouse. Because the mother has no support as a parent, it's understandable that when things are rough, she starts to establish this pattern of treating her son like a partner. But the consequences of this are massive. A young boy is not supposed to take on that much responsibility. The boy is essentially being forced into an emotional relationship as equal with a woman who should have a very clear boundary because she is the parent and he is the child. If you ask men who had this experience, very often they'll deny it. They'll say, no, it was the best thing for me. It forces me to mature quickly and become a man. And hey, sometimes that can happen. There can always be exceptions. But as a whole, they're lying to themselves. And you can see the impact of this trauma when they become adults entering into romantic relationships. So let's talk about it. It usually manifests in one of two ways. The first is when the man grows up to be a radical feminist because as a young boy, his mother was always complaining about men and how terrible men are. So he could internalize that message that everything was to blame on the man. And as time goes on, he could develop this hatred for all men, or even worse, an internalized misandry against himself. The way this plays out in romantic relationship is that he's going to become a rescuer, somebody who's comfortable playing the same role he did when he was a child. So with his mother, she would go to him for support and she would look at him to share responsibilities. And if that happens over and over again, he can adapt to that and feel comfortable taking on that role, even though he shouldn't. It's fucked up, but as a young boy, he has no other options but to rationalize it in order to cope with the horrible circumstances that he's in. So because he feels safe taking on that role, that's what he's going to want to do in his romantic relationship. But here's the problem. Because he wants to be the rescuer, he tends to attract women who need to be rescued. These are the women who are depressed, they have personality disorders, they have drug addiction, women who are also single mothers, they have really bad and abusive relationships. And the reason why he goes after these women is because he gets to come in and play the hero. And unconsciously, he wants to prove to his mother that he's not like any other man. Now, psychologically speaking, what you see here is the unrealistic standards that his mother has set for him as a young boy. It's like she's telling him, I got screwed over by a man, so it's your job as a man to make up for what happened to me. And this is a never-ending task. He's never going to be able to do it, but he takes on that role anyways. It's like his life mission is to prove to his mother that he's not like other men. So he's proven it with this girlfriend and that girlfriend, and all of them are probably going to take advantage of him and treat him badly because he has no self-respect. But at the end of the day, it's his mother who set him up for that. It's really tragic. So that was the first way that it can manifest. Another direction that this can go is that at some point, you're going to become aware of what's happening and you can get really angry with your mother and possibly develop a strong feeling of misogyny. Sometimes you can still have a good relationship with your mother because all of your feelings of anger and hatred towards your mother are so deeply suppressed that you will never actually allow yourself to express them. But these feelings would eventually come out in your romantic relationships. For example, instead of trying to prove to your mother that you're not like other men, in this instance, because you resent your mother, you punish her through other women. So let's say every time your girlfriend asks you for a simple favor, it triggers all of that trauma in your past. Like, fuck, haven't I done enough? What else do you want from me? So you get angry at her and you don't even know why you're angry. You see, because of these unacknowledged feelings about your mother, you think all women are entitled and selfish and they just want to exploit you. Another consequence of this trauma is not about the effect of a toxic mother, but the absence of a father. If the mother doesn't allow the father to be with his son, then how is the son supposed to grow up to be a man when he doesn't have anyone who can demonstrate in a positive way what it means to be a man? Especially for boys, masculinity is extremely difficult to capture because unlike femininity where it comes from inside, women can just feel what comes natural to them. But masculinity doesn't come from the inside. It's not natural for a boy to feel masculine. He has to be masculine. It's external and you have to see it's being done before you know what it really is. If you look back in tribal days, across pretty much all cultures, there's this thing called the process of initiation where you take a boy and you make him go through something difficult in order to become a man. Once he can do that, he's then invited to the brotherhood of men. Without the brotherhood of men, or at least the father, how's the boy supposed to make this transition? The consequence of this is that the boy is going to feel a hole in his existence where that strong masculine male role model was meant to be. So there's that hunger for masculinity, to know what it's like to be a man, to see things from a man perspective. Because when you grow up with a toxic single mother, your entire life, you see the world through a feminine mindset. And you accept that as normal, but it's not normal. The proper way to see the world is through both feminine and masculine. So when you enter into a relationship as a feminine man, that's going to be a disaster because women don't want to be with feminine men. Women are feminine, so they want to be with masculine men. If you're feminine, they're going to walk all over you. At best, they tolerate you. At worst, they abuse you. And here's the thing. This need for father figure or the approval from the masculine is not going to go away simply because you're not able to get it met from your father. It's a very deeply held instinct that every man feels to be accepted by the masculine. So if you don't get that from your father, you're likely to look for it in some other places. A lot of them can be unhealthy. I think it's not a coincidence that a lot of men who ended up in gang violence were raised by single mothers. So if you're listening to this because you had a toxic mother and you're not sure of what to do, I don't think you're doomed. There are a lot you can do. I don't think there's anything wrong with you for recognizing that there was a need in your childhood that was not met, and now as an adult, you're making choices in your life trying to get those needs met. I think it's entirely rational. So if you have any experiences with toxic mother, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section. I know that this can be a sensitive topic for a lot of people, so please be kind in the comment section. If you want to share your stories or give advice, feel free to do so. I want the comment section to be the safe space for everyone. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Stay curious.